السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء فاتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الناس اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الحديث حديث محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل دلالة في النار. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing. I know it's the last khutbah on the day when there's 3 khutbahs. Everybody's rushing. There's so much traffic. Even myself, I'm rushing here trying to get through the traffic. Actually, lately, it seems like no matter what you do, everywhere you go, there's traffic. In the city, so many people, so much traffic all the time. You know, so much people, so much congestion, so much pollution. Don't get me wrong, I'm a city boy. I was born in the city, raised in the city. I love the city. The hustle, the bustle, the flow, the action. But, you know, sometimes you just wonder about maybe moving out to the country, you know, getting back in touch with nature and maybe raising my kids in the country, being under the stars, something slower. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be doing a khutbah. I'm just getting distracted about the traffic. Last time I was here, we were talking about the story of the Prophet ﷺ In the beginning of the seerah, we actually begin with the story of Shayba, a boy growing up as an orphan who doesn't know who he is, who finds out he is actually the son of the former leader of Mecca and grows up and takes over his father's legacy and becomes the one we call Abdul. And as his story goes on, he gets many sons and a big family and becomes the leader of Quraysh. And where we last left off in our story, he had just gotten past the fitna of the general of Yemen coming to attack the Kaaba and the story of Ababil. And also the fitna of his son Abdullah that he swore he would sacrifice. As the forefather Abraham of the great house made an oath, he made the same kind of oath on his sons. And when Abdullah was spared, it was a time of celebration after the time of the attack of Al-Fil. And Mutallib himself got married. And Abdullah, his son, also got married. And we ended the last khutbah with the good news that Mutallib finds out that he is about to have a new son, who will be named Hamza, radiallahu anhu. And also Abdullah's wife is also pregnant and going to have a baby. So let's go right back into our story where we left off. Shayba Mutallib says to Abdullah, his son, as all fathers say, son, you got married, you got a kid on the way. It's time to take life seriously. It's time to focus on what you're going to do. There's a trading caravan going to the north. Maybe you should go and start hustling, making some deals. Now, some reports say the trading caravan was going from Mecca towards Medina and maybe to Sham. And some reports say Abdullah was just going to Medina to buy some dates and come back. Whether he was going farther or closer, it doesn't really matter because the fact remains that Abdullah travels north and does not ever return. He gets sick and dies on the way. Amina, the wife of Abdullah, is pregnant with the baby. Muhammed, the person that we know, is an orphan. He is an orphan. He hasn't been even born yet. He's still an unborn babe, and he is already a yatim. Well, who are you if your father's dead? Well, in a society like the Arabs that is all based on class, status, family lines, the importance of who's your daddy? Who's your daddy is the most important thing. We say that line now like it's a joke, but who's your daddy is an important thing. And so who are you if your father's already dead? Well, you're a yatim, of course, that's the definition, but I mean, what is your story? How do you understand the world? How do you understand what's going on around you? Now, even though the situation is bad and the boy is a yatim, Shayba, the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad, wants the best for him. And it is the custom of the Arabs in those days, that even in a city like Mecca, you don't want to raise your kids in the city. The city is a place of crime, corruption, disease. Immigrants are coming, speaking strange words, slang. We want our kids raised out in the country. Well, there's no country in the desert. We want our kids raised out in the desert with the Bedouins, with the tribal people. The Bedouins had honor. The Bedouins had status. The Bedouins had the pure life, the character, hospitality, adab and akhlaq. It was still there with the Bedouins. And the fasih, the pure lugha, the pure Arabic language. And so the Arabs used to take their children and send them out into the tribes of the desert. Now, one of the most famous tribes in the desert that used to come to Mecca to take children was the tribe of Banu Sa'd. Banu Sa'd bin Bakr. Now, in that tribe of Banu Sa'd, out in the desert, the situation was bad because at the time when this was going on, there had been droughts for a long time and not a lot of greenery. The herds and the camels and the cattle were growing weak. And inside Banu Sa'd was a woman who was thinking there is a group of people headed towards Mecca to pick up foster children. Her name was Halimah. Halimah, a Saadiah from the Saadi tribe. She says to her husband, things are going bad, right? Now, Halimah, according to reports, already has children. She has a son named Hadith, one named Ghassan, an older daughter named Shayma. And to come and offer yourself as a foster mother, she just had a baby, right? She just had a baby. This is pure biological, right? So she goes with the caravan with Banu Sa'd towards Mecca. Now, Banu Sa'd travels all through the deserts, and sometimes they go even as far as close to the area near Medina, but they're traveling back, and she is saying that the situation was so rough. She has an old female camel that doesn't give milk, and she rides on a donkey that is limp and lame. Because of the drought and because of the lack of food, she's barely having enough milk to feed her own child. And the baby is crying on the whole trip. And the caravan is always waiting for her because her donkey can barely walk and she is at the back of the pack. Now, it's one thing to have a bad situation, but it's another thing to have a bad situation and everybody can watch you, right? Everybody in the caravan can see you're the worst amongst us. But they go to Mecca hoping that maybe they find a child or a baby and their situation will get better. And so Halimah and her husband, they come to the house of Shaykh Abdul Mutallib and Aminah, and they see the baby Muhammed, and he is offered to them, and they ask, who is this boy? He's a yatim. His father is dead. So she sees the boy and says, okay, thank you, but no, thank you. No, I'm not taking him. And she leaves him there. Now, the people of Banu Saad do their business. Some are doing trade. Other women have come to get foster children, and everybody is doing their transaction. And the people of Banu Saad have decided it's almost time for us to pack up and go back into the desert. And Halimah is now a little bit concerned because she's gone from house to house looking for a foster baby, but can't find any. And now the whole tribe is getting ready to leave. So she says to her husband, you know, maybe we should go back and get that baby, Muhammad, what was his name? The yatim one? I mean, he doesn't have a father, but maybe Allah will create some barakah. Maybe there will be some barakah, some benefit to it. So even with that situation, a little bit of pure niyyah. So she goes back and agrees to take this boy, Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Strangely, she says, from the moment she takes the baby in her arms, she feels her milk coming in. It's reported that on the way back, the caravan had an easy journey. Everybody is asking her, oh, Halimah, did you sell your old donkey and get a new one? Because the donkey that she's riding is galloping. On the way here, she was barely keeping up with the caravan, but on the way back, her donkey is leading the caravan. And everybody can't understand what is so strange with this donkey. I say to you, brothers and sisters, it's not the donkey that is leading the caravan, right? The baby, Rasul, is leading the caravan, but everybody thinks it's a donkey, subhanAllah. Now, Halimah says her situation gets better when they go back into the desert. They find their animals always full. They find the grass has turned green. And it is as if the baby itself is bringing barakah, ni'mah. And Halimah and her family realize this blessing and understand this blessing and feel this blessing. And that's how come sometimes if you go to the Eastern cultures, they talk about the blessings of being around the Prophet and when the Prophet was young, or even people sing nasheed or poetry about this time. And it is true that even other people in the tribe of Banu Saad found it a little strange that the animals of Halimah now always had milk. They always came back full, and even some of the other people of Banu Saad were still having difficulties. But this is one of the things they say, they talk about poetry, right? That from the house of Abdullah, a noor, a light was going to come, right? Abdullah ke ghar se noor bikarne wala hai. Dai Halimah, god mein teri, chand utarne wala hai. Oh, Lady Halimah, from your lap, a star is going to rise. And what did we say? If you remember one of the past khutbahs, that, you know, when people talk about poetry and romantic stuff, they describe people like suns and moons and stars, right? People do that kind of thing in poetry, and it's true. They're describing the Prophet. And sometimes weird storytellers use those kinds of things too. But the blessing of the Prophet continues with Banu Saad. So much so that when the Banu Saad people come back to Mecca, Halimah comes, visits with the Prophet and brings them there and always convinces Aminah, let me take him back. And she keeps convincing him to do that until the Prophet gets older and older. We're almost out of time. Inshallah, in the next half of the khutbah, I'll tell you the story when Jibreel alayhi salam comes to the Prophet for the first time. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. Now most people say, the story of when Jibreel alayhi salam comes to the Prophet, everybody knows that's in Ghar Hira. No, that's not the story I'm telling. The first time Jibreel comes to the Prophet is when he is still out in the desert as a little boy. Some reports say he was 4, maybe 5 years old. Now, in the beginning, Halimah and her husband didn't notice. One day, a tribe from Yathrib of Jews came by and they saw this boy and they said, "Who is this boy? Who does this boy belong to?" So Halimah and her husband said, "He's no one. He's an orphan, son of nobody. Nothing to notice here. Just go about your business." The Jews noticed something strange with the boy, but a yatim, a son of no one, probably insignificant, and they let it go. Halimah looks to her husband, "What was that about?" "I don't know." They both found it strange. But the weird thing that happens is one day the children are out playing in the fields in the deserts, and Shayma, the older daughter of Halimah, comes running in to the tent. لقد قتل أخونا القرشي. لقد قتل أخونا القرشي. Our Qurayshi brother, he's been killed. He's been murdered. Halimah asks, "What are you talking about?" "2 men," she says. "Me and my brothers, we watched 2 men grab Muhammed, our Qurayshi brother, held him down, cut his chest open, and pulled out his heart. We watched him do it. He's been murdered." Halimah and her husband run out of the tent to go see what happened. They don't see any men, but they do find the little boy Muhammad, and something has changed in him. He looks pale. He looks like something has occurred. They get worried. They decide perhaps now it's time to return him to his family. Now, this thing is recorded in the Quran and Sunnah, from the Seerah, that Jibreel alayhi salam, and some reports say 2 angels came and performed the open heart surgery on the messenger, preparing him for his mission, removing the blot or the stain or the mess, the touch from shaitan, as all of the sons of Adam I've been cursed with this, the forgetfulness. If you remember some of my khutbahs from before, the idea that we are the Bani Adam, we forget things, we don't remember our souls from before. This is the curse for all of Bani Adam except for Isa alayhi salam is an exception to this. When Isa alayhi salam is born, he is remembering everything and speaking the kalam of Allah from the moment his mother is holding him. But the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this happens to him there when he is a child. And strangely, it's not the only time it happens to him. It happens again on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj. Jibreel comes to him again to prepare him now not for his worldly mission, but his heavenly mission before going to the samawat. But that's another story for another day, inshallah. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد إن الله يأمركم بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم يدعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أعلى وأولى وعز وجل وحمد وأقيم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا. There's plenty of room inside, people, inshallah. صلوا صلاة المعد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمكم من جوع وآمنكم من خوف. الله أكبر. سمع الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
I think we'll be praying Asar Salah in a few minutes. If you want, you can join, inshallah.